Good morning. My name is Dr. Robert Young, and I'm with Scott here. Scott, why don't you tell me your full name and your age and any other challenges, a little bit about you, challenges that you might have.
Okay, glad to do it. Scott Douglas Stewart. I'll be 69 come February. So I'm 68 now. I think you and I were born the same year. I think I saw on Wikipedia.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I was born and raised in Miami and grew up with a typical, English Scottish diet until I was about 20 years old, and then I became a vegetarian. I've been a vegetarian ever since.
Uh-huh. Does
But
that mean that does that mean you currently have dairy products in your diet?
well, yes, but not to the extent. We never eat it at home, but if we go out and we're with people, we might have a lasagna that's vegetarian, has cheese in it and things. I like cheese, but it doesn't do well. I don't do well with it.
Mm.
And
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
So we're mostly vegan. I would say 95%.
Uh-huh.
But I've suffered headaches, migraines mostly. I started getting them when I was about 12 or 13, and in the beginning took aspirin so I could get through. I took 2 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon when it hit me, all through high school, and then I started on Excedrin. And unfortunately, I did that 2, 4, 6, even sometimes 8 a day. Took Imitrex for migraines. Would get 7 or 8 of them in a month, and a lot of it was probably related to sinus, I would say. But it took me. I've been off it a couple of times. I'm off it now, but for about 5 years ago, I met an acupuncture lady who helped me with that. And unfortunately, I started drinking a lot of tea, which I see you're not a big fan of. So I trying to quit that too. But yeah, basically, haven't had any real trauma in my life. I wouldn't say in terms of physical. I had wisdom teeth out, had the typical, mercury stuff for dental, which, come to find out later is not good. I had a question about implants. I'll ask you that after we wrap this up. But basically, have been somebody who worked outside. I'm a general contractor. I've been passionate in sports and still play golf. That was my sport. So I've gotten a lot of sun and probably have sun damage, I would say, to an extent, because I also spent a lot of time on the surfboard. But my biggest complaints, really, and I've written them down, and they're pretty probably what you'd expect. I put down migraines, although I greatly have reduced that. Fatigue, brain fog, which seems to get worse some days, worse than others. But more than anything, I wanted to get out of this. I'm full on board with everything that you teach. And I was exposed to your understandings about 10 or 12 years ago, maybe 14 years ago, through a friend of mine who's 34, who read your book. What is it? The first
pH Miracle or Sick and Tired or
Sick and Tired.
Yeah, Sick and Tired.
And it's because of him. He's like my older brother. It's because of him I'm a vegetarian and had a spiritual change, which was to the better. And he was so excited about it. And I was busy and I didn't pay much attention to it, but I got exposed to a little bit to it. And because of this COVID nonsense that's going on and all the things that are online now, started to understand that everything you say, I think, is absolutely the truth about viruses. And I don't have a scientific background. It just seems so logical to me. And then little by little, I think I've seen most of your videos that have been the latest ones, at least. I saw all of Unmasked. And I saw the one that you did in, I think it's the Netherlands or The Hague or something, where they do that court thing. They had Sasha Stone on there and some other folks.
Yeah, that was the International Tribunal of Natural Justice.
Yes, and
Yeah,
I've seen
it was actually in Bali, Indonesia. Okay. Yeah, and
all of that presentation as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I had a zillion questions, of course, but I don't know how much more I can tell you other than I still live in Florida, and we have a very humid climate, as you know, and so all of us seem to struggle when it's summertime and we're coming out of that. But it's the overall fatigue. I still get headaches. The last few headaches, which have been over the last 12 months, I've told my wife this, and it makes sense now reading your stuff. It's almost like, and I try to explain my acupuncture lady. I said, I feel like my blood's dirty. I feel like something's racing through me, and that I'll have these collapses. So sometimes I'll eat, and then, within 30 minutes, I'm just crashing, just want to fall asleep.
Yeah, that's
And so,
the Japanese call that the food drunkenness disease. What
yeah,
happens is if you're living in an acidic environment or cells have broken down or have given rise to biological transformations like yeast, i.e., candida,
hmm
these are symptoms of a compromised internal environment, an acidic environment that's caused this cellular transformation. Because what happens inside our bodies, unbeknownst to us, because out of sight, out of mind, is that cells
right,
will morph. They'll morph into bacteria. They'll morph into yeast, and this can happen after you've taken, let's say, antibiotics. It can happen if you're taking aspirin, which is also a an acid. So these are things that, excuse me one second, these are things that affect the internal environment. What needs to be protected and is no different than managing or maintaining, a saltwater aquarium, or a swimming pool, or the oceans, you know, uh, of the world. Those are naturally being maintained, even this, in spite of the fact that tremendous amount of human waste, and also air pollution is being absorbed by the ocean, and it's trying to maintain its integrity. Of course, what's happening is death to marine life, and it's also causing the death of coral reefs, and trying to maintain that alkalinity at 8.4, 8.365 to 8.4. The bottom line is we're no different than the body of waters that surround our cells, like the ocean that surround the fish. The fish are only as healthy as the water they swim in.
hmm
And the difference between the germ theory and the terrain theory, or the difference between the disease approach or the terrain approach, is you don't treat disease. You don't, headaches are a symptom.
right,
They're not a disease. A flu is, or the expulsion of fluids coming from the orifices of our body are not diseases. They're
hmm
the body's preservation mode to save your life, to protect the cells. It's amazing what the body will do to try to protect itself at great odds. And
right,
I say great odds because we're being exposed to a soup of electromagnetic frequencies that are equivalent to smoking 300 cigarettes a day. I don't know if you've ever smoked before, but 300 is a lot.
yeah,
We're being exposed to medical treatments that contain chemicals, particularly hydrochloric acid, in pharmaceuticals, or even in nutraceuticals, enzymes and probiotics,
hmm
which don't address the fact of how disturbing these are to the oceans of our water.
right,
In other words, you can throw stuff in the swimming pool, but that doesn't change the fact that the pool has to be cleaned. So that's why you have a pool sweep. That's why you have a net to pick things up.
right,
That net is like white blood cells going around and picking up the garbage. They're called neutrophils. Neutrophils swim in our body fluids to pick up cellular waste and pick up, from food or from cells of our body to maintain internal cleanliness.
hmm
So headaches, low energy, fevers, any type of circulatory problems, cold hands, cold feet, lightheadedness, dizziness, are
hmm
all symptoms, not diseases.
right. I have all that, by the way, to some degree.
Yeah, I already figured that based on what you told me. That's why I specifically
Here,
said those.
if I could just add something, it's been 48 years I've been a vegetarian, right? And so you start off and you're trying to understand, because it's a big change, it's a switch in lifestyle, and you come away with, you think that the health food store is going to be the answer, and the more I'm learning. So as an example, I tried a macrobiotic diet, I tried a raw food diet, I tried a lot of different things, and you get discouraged, you go off it, and then you're out, you're working, you take the analgesics to get through the pain of the day or whatever, and you get in this
Can you
circular.
hang on just 1 minute? Excuse me, just 1 minute.
No worries.
Hi, Adam. I'm sorry, I'm in a consultation. Did Miguel call you? Okay. I need to get back. Is it an emergency or do I? Okay, I'll do that. Thank you. Bye-bye. Multitasking. Sorry.
All right, doesn't bother me. I'm the same way.
Yeah.
So what I was leading up to is that over time, I guess I'm honestly saying, a little bit of knowledge is dangerous. I probably have more knowledge than most because of my background, but I'm still confused. Does that make sense?
What are you confused about?
Well, it's what would be the best overall diet approach. And when I say that, I'll give you an example. Recently, I followed some of Dr. Steve Gundry's lectin-free protocols, which I don't see that in your. By the way, I downloaded.
Well, I mean, okay, let's stop right there.
Yeah.
Dr. Gundry is a medical doctor, and he has a medical background. And I appreciate the fact that he's bringing up, toxins from various foods, but all food is toxic to a lesser or greater degree. Okay. The key is not whether or not it contains a particular element or compound that's toxic.
Mm-hmm.
What is important is that toxic element within that food, mm-hmm. which is there for protecting the seeds and the promulgation of that particular food. They're there to protect. That's why it has a skin. That's why we have a skin. It's a form of protection. And these chemicals that are in there, he's absolutely right. Mm-hmm. But what he doesn't address is the fact that the alkalizing compounds, the antioxidants, are far greater mm-hmm. in many of these foods than those which he's recommending to eliminate.
Okay.
So I can find toxins in any food.
Right.
Okay, you can find acids. They're part of that. One of those acids is sugar. So one of the things that I suggest is not eating bananas.
Right.
And yet I sell an iJuice banana juice, and people go, well, wait a minute, Dr. Young, why are you selling or why are you offering bananas? Because I know bananas are high in potassium, which is a mineral. It's mm-hmm. a mineral compound, potassium bicarbonate, potassium. So what I do is I juice the banana mm-hmm. and then I extract the fluid. I evaporate the fluid off. And guess what comes out? The sugar.
Right.
So the sugar comes out and it leaves the mineral content.
Right.
But it still has the essence of banana. You're going, right. This tastes like banana, but there's no sugar in it. So, okay. So what I'm saying is, eggplant is not toxic. It's an electron donating food. Mm-hmm. Is it better than spinach or avocados? No. Mm-hmm. You're talking about nightshades. The argument comes up, well, nightshades contain uric acid. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, guess what? So does meat. The difference is the level of acids in meat are far greater than its alkalizing components.
Right.
And therefore, foods that contain uric acid, mm-hmm. the nightshades, have to be looked at in its entirety. So the question is not whether it contains uric acid. The question is this food going to contribute hydrogen ions, which is another word for acid, or is it going to contribute hydroxyl ions, which is another word for, base or alkalinity or electrons. So when I was doing my work, I was doing it based upon the effects that food has on the blood and the interstitial fluid.
Right.
Now, the blood is tricky because the blood will protect itself against all odds. So if you drink alcohol, guess where the alcohol goes? Into the blood, and then where does it go? It gets pushed out, because if it stays in the blood, it destroys the blood and you die. That's why drinking too much alcohol, where the blood can't not move this out into the interstitium, which is compartmentalized, okay, and like tanks that holds waste product from the blood and from the cells. So when you eat a food like cheese, which is highly toxic, that is a hydrogen donor and electron scavenger. So what it does is it reduces your alkalinity, okay, which can cause then cellular coagulation or pathological blood coagulation, and this can hamper circulation to the extremities, i.e. leading to a headache.
Right. So
if the body can't get enough oxygen, and the oxygen is not being dispersed properly because it has to go in single file to through the pulmonary system into the capillary pools in order to dump its carbon dioxide, you end up with lightheadedness and dizziness, which is nothing more than hypoxia caused by pathological blood coagulation from the cheese you just got through eating.
Makes sense.
So some people can deal with this. How come you get headaches and somebody doesn't?
Right.
Here again, some people have this incredible way of removing waste because their channels of elimination are open and their stomach is functioning properly to produce, as the primary immune response is the stomach. Not the white blood cells, the stomach. The stomach is constantly producing sodium bicarbonate to put out the fire. So if you drink alcohol, if you drink tea, if you eat cheese, guess what the stomach's going to do? It's going to immediately pull carbon dioxide, water, and salt from the blood, pull it into the lining of the stomach to the cover cells, and start producing sodium bicarbonate to neutralize the poison you just ate. Why does it do that? It does that because if it doesn't raise the pH of the food, it's going to go into the intestinal tract and destroy that entire environment, which happens to be ideally at 8.4. So I looked at every single food that was destructive to the electrical system of the body, the central nervous system, and particularly a bundle of cells called the astrocytes, which controls homeostasis for the entire human body. And then comparing the interstitial fluids, which is the main body of water, to the blood, making sure that particular food or that particular lifestyle wasn't causing what is called decompensated acidosis of the interstitial fluids of the interstitium. That's a mouthful. But what I just said was simply, what was this food or this drink or this lifestyle that one was living wasn't compromising the swimming pool where the cells are swimming. It's called the interstitial fluids. Cells are surrounded by a pool of water. So when we have lung congestion, it's because of toxicity of the interstitial fluids of the lung. But you can't just cut off. This is not just a separate pool of water. It's all throughout the whole system.
Right.
But it affects the weak. Somebody says, well, why does it affect the lungs? Why does it affect the liver? Why does it affect in like diabetes? Why does it affect the pancreas? Because it affects the weakest part of the body based upon its functionality. The pancreas is going to distributes sodium bicarbonate on the food coming out of the stomach. It's part of the alkaline buffering system, which, by the way, isn't taught to medical doctors at medical school. We're still teaching in our schools that the stomach digests food. That's a total myth. The only thing that digests food is your teeth. So whatever you swallow, if it's not in a liquid or pureed state, and the body can't alkalize. It's going to go in and it's going to go out. And if it's highly toxic, it comes out as a liquid called diarrhea. And if it's like meat or beef or pork, eventually it comes out a few weeks, or few years later.
Mhm.
And you're seeing, something you ate last year for Christmas, and you're going, wow, that's just being eliminated.
Yeah.
So the problem here with your symptomologies is circulation.
Well, always has been. Let me tell you something else. I forgot this. I had prostatitis at 23 years old, and I had it and I've had it 3 or 4 other times, right?
Yeah.
And the last time I had it was, oh goodness, 3-4 years ago, and I, like an idiot, went on that 4-week protocol of antibiotics, which is horrible, and I think I'll never take another one in my life, I promise. But so I'm wondering if some of, and I guess when you asked me, well, I said I was confused. Is you're looking for an approach, like I'm confused about whether it's gluten free or not. Bread, as an example, I don't do well with bread. At least I don't eat white bread.
Well, nobody does well with bread.
Yeah, I just don't.
We all like it, but we're not. Our bodies aren't designed to handle that, and yeah, we can blame gluten, but here again, the foundational foods that we should be eating should be live. They don't have to be cold. They can be warmed up. They don't have to be solid. They can be juiced or pureed, but they need to be fall within the 4 food groups.
The other thing,
which is chlorophyll, oil, water, and salt.
Right. And then I had no idea mushrooms were bad for you until I just saw one of your podcasts.
Well, in nature, where do you find mushrooms?
Yeah, usually underneath trees and growing on something that's like algae almost, isn't it?
Yeah, on decaying matter. They're part of the recycling. So yeah, if you want to eat them and be recycled, that's great. I mean, it just depends on, here again, what your intention is. If you want to maintain the alkaline design of your body and have your cells thrive in a pool of alkaline fluids at a pH of, 7.8 or greater, I'm talking about the interstitial fluids.
Mm-hmm.
And this is how you reverse these conditions. 1, you open up the channels of elimination. You've got 4.
Mm-hmm.
Respiration, defecation, urination, and perspiration.
Right.
2, you start building healthy blood. What is blood made from? Well, hemoglobin is identical to chlorophyll, so that's a hint. Green foods.
Yeah.
So high chlorophyll content foods, chlorophyll, oil for building membranes of stem cells in the crypts of the small intestine,
mm-hmm.
water, which has a high pH, 10 or above, and salt, which your doctor tells you to get off, which is totally ridiculous.
Right. I was happy to hear you say that. Listen, I'm all in, 100% in. I guess what I want to accomplish is to understand, and if I don't understand, then I'll struggle internally with it. And that is, there's things that I've been practicing that now I think you probably, apple cider vinegar as an example, was taking that every day with a little bit of honey. That's very acidic, I now understand, correct?
Well, see, that's like taking antibiotics.
Yeah.
They're both acids. What's the benefit of an acid? It breaks things down.
Right.
So if you have sclerotic plaque, that's going to help break that down.
Okay.
But the mindset is not to kill, but to heal.
Right.
It's not to destroy, but to build.
Right.
It's not to treat disease, but to restore the alkaline design of the human body. And you have to focus on the fluids. So what's the easiest thing that you can do to manage the alkaline design of the 80% of your extracellular fluids? The other is blood, which is 20%.
Right.
So how do you manage that? What do you have to do to manage? How do you test that on a daily basis so you can manage it?
I guess the pH.
Right. And how do you do that?
Well, I gotta get some of those strips, I guess. And
that's right. Do you have them?
No, actually, I had them. I was going to go out and get them today. I'm going to get them. Our Pinch a Penny, which is a pool place, sells them here.
Okay, so you get some pH strips. The reagents in the pH hydrant paper that we sell is specifically for urine.
Yeah,
So
that's another thing. Let me just stop for a second. Before we leave all this, I want to have an understanding of what you recommend in terms of products. I bought the 4 salts. I've been taking that. Also the green.
how often do you take the 4 salts?
I was taking it a couple, 3 times a day now. Is that too much?
No, but you may need more, but you wouldn't know unless you were testing your pH.
Yeah, you're right. Good point.
I
And then
mean,
the
so if you want to know and have certainty in what you're doing,
right.
and actually go, wow, I just scored a touchdown. My pH is up in the high 8s, and that's where I want to keep it.
Right.
So yes, even when it's high like that, the rule of thumb is you always take it first thing in the morning and last thing before going to bed.
Okay.
And then any time that the pH drops below 7.8, I mean, I've said 7.2, but if you're serious about this, anytime your pH drops below 7.2, you have to take another scoop in a small glass of alkaline water and drink that.
Mm-hmm.
It's
I'll tell you how serious I am. We're the same age. I want to be around for my grandkids, and
yeah,
I'm pretty healthy overall, and maybe partly because I've been a vegetarian. I wouldn't say I've been the right kind of vegetarian, but I want to feel good. I want to have energy again. I want to stay active. So, and whatever that takes, I'm trying to get. It'll be me and the family, meaning my wife and I, to set this dynamic. Was not a vegetarian until we got married 5 years ago, and she's got some real serious challenges. Colitis, as an example, got all the same stuff, fatigue and brain fog. And she had varicose veins. She had a tummy tuck, which was probably not good. And she hadn't been quite the same since she did that. She's from Colombia. So I'm concerned about her and how we get past her colitis. And usually it's brought about with an upset, which, an emotional discussion or something like that.
yeah. Any itis is an inflammation. Any inflammation's always associated with systemic acidosis that's affecting the weakest parts or the injured parts of our body. I mean, if you've hurt your knee and you eat the wrong thing, you feel it in the knee first.
Right, right.
If you had a head bang injury, I didn't ask you that. Have you had any head bang injuries, any trauma to the cervical spine?
Yeah, I have. I played football for a little bit and found out at 6 foot, 122 pounds, I wasn't going to be the next Raymond Berry. So I switched over and stayed with the. But yeah, I had never got knocked out. I've had concussions, but I've been to the chiropractor since I was probably 20, 21, and they all say it's from hitting the sled and stuff as you do in practice. But yeah, and I have a lower bad, I call it a bad back, and it flares up on me once every 6 months or so, and I go visit my chiropractor friend, and usually I'm pretty good. But I've never been knocked out where I was unconscious or anything like that, but
Okay.
been whacked on the head a few times.
Yeah, some physical therapy on your back rather than chiropractic, but physical therapy where they actually put you on a gurney that stretches that back out and elongates the spinal column. Here again, without having any sort of study on your skeletal system,
Mm-hmm.
and I know they use x-rays, I don't recommend those, or different types of scans that may be either magnetic.
How about an MRI? Is that an okay
Well,
thing?
it's a magnetic resonance. Here again, it's EMF you're exposed to, which is, putting out milligauss that is cancer causing. I
Right.
mean, they're not going to say that,
Yeah.
but it's the same thing with buying an electric car. It puts out a magnetic field that causes cancer.
Yeah.
So I call them the new cancer car. The new cigarette are the
So
electrical cars.
even these Teslas are not protected.
Absolutely. They're a time bomb. They're cancer causing cars.
My son just bought 2 of them. He puts them on Turo, and
Yeah, well, get a milligauss meter and have him test where he's sitting on and cooking his gonads. Here again, you have to protect yourself from that frequency, and it can be tested, but they're not going to disclose that.
Well, that's a shame. You know,
You
that was
know, and here again, I've tested these cars, and the milligauss are in excess of 100 milligauss. And the United States Environmental Protection Agency said anything over 3 to 5 milligauss is cancer causing. I didn't say that.
100, you said excess of 100?
No, in excess of 100 milligauss, yes. And if you know, there's actually two fields that you need to know about. There's the electrical field and there's the magnetic field.
Yeah.
And the electrical field does not pass through walls. The magnetic field passes through everything except for lead. That's why they banned lead-free paint. It actually protects you.
Right. I remember hearing you say that on one of your shows.
You know, so the bottom line is you have to protect yourself. And the way to protect yourself is through sympathetic resonant technology. And I've published on this with another doctor, Dr. Beverly Rubin, professor at the University of California, Berkeley. It's the effects of biofield on the human biofields, the effects of EMF on the human biofields.
How do you protect yourself? I didn't quite get that.
Well, you protect yourself by amplifying and resonating something. It's like a tuning fork. It's called sympathetic resonant technology. It's the ARC technology using crystals. It's kind of like crystals. Once the movement starts, there's a frequency. It hits the crystal picks it up and reinforces that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so that's why watchmakers put crystals in watches to keep them ticking. Okay, the same thing. We have a field of energy. We put out a frequency. That frequency is affected by toxic frequencies coming from Wi-Fi, which is probably one of the most dangerous. That's why I've been recommending to go hardwire rather than through wire, you know, the wireless. Fiber optics is a better choice than the other, if you want to. And if you have to reduce headaches and lightheadedness and dizziness, which it doesn't matter what G is, 0G, 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G, 6G. I mean, that's just marketing stuff.
Right.
Basically what they're saying is 900 megahertz to 2.5 gigahertz to up to 300 gigahertz to, you know, let's just kill everything on the earth, 300 gigahertz. Right. You know, so the bottom line is you have to protect yourself from that. And the way you do is strengthen your own biofields. And you do that with biofeedback with crystal, because crystal has the ability to pick up your vibration and then form a link, a resonance, and reinforcing your own healthy vibrational frequency. So any chaotic fields of energy that you walk in, you don't feel that.
So how do you do that? I'm not quite following.
Hold on just 1 minute.
I'm gonna take a restroom break.
Okay, go ahead, hurry.
Yeah, give me 1 second. Okay, I'm back. Having said that, I was going to ask you about that. I saw you wearing that in one of your things. You sell that?
Well, yes and no. I make it available. We have to make these.
Oh, wow. I'd love to have one. I really would.
Yeah. It's your capacitator. You put this in your car and it runs your car. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, no, I'm not kidding. But, I'm not kidding. This right here is a capacitator for your body. It actually emits photons of light.
Nice.
And so what it does when you wear it at the heart chakra,
Mm-hmm.
it picks up your own body vibration,
Right.
and then links to the crystal, and the crystal emulates that.
Nice.
This acts as a tuning fork.
Very cool. Now,
So what's that?
That inside the medallion you just showed me?
Well, the medallion is just a holder, you know.
Yeah,
I mean, it's an empty piece.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I got you.
Yeah, I mean, we make bigger ones, but you know, for houses, but I don't talk about them too much because it takes too much effort.
Yeah.
To have these put together.
Well,
yeah,
I'd love one if you,
but yeah, that's it right there.
Nice.
You know, so welcome to the future. So so this is what's going on, is you have to protect yourself. It's not just protecting the fluids. We are electrical beings. We're electromagnetic beings.
Yes.
And these biofields are being messed with. They were messed with in the 1900s. The 1918 Spanish flu epidemic was associated with radio waves and vaccinations. Vaccinations is a chemical poisoning. Radio waves is a electromagnetic frequency poisoning, and people didn't have ways to protect themselves. And so with this new introduction of force, was highly disturbing to the membranes of the cells, of which, you know, when I, you know, show this, you know, you can actually see the effects on the cell membranes, cell fragments. These cell fragments are fragments that contain genetic material.
Wow, yeah.
They're coming from your own body cells. I mean, how do you differentiate between what comes from you and what comes from outside, or what came from what you just got through eating?
All right. So as an example, I've had kidney stones several times in my lifetime. Is it true that comes out of your bones?
Yeah. Hang on just a second. Okay. 1 second.
Yeah.
I apologize. No, the bones are used as a backup system for protecting the alkaline design of the body fluids. So the body will waste muscle and bone to protect the environment. You don't want to do that. That's why people become the incredible shrinking woman or the incredible shrinking man.
Yes.
Because their bones are being used for two purposes. One, to maintain the alkaline design of the interstitial fluids and the blood fluids and the intracellular fluids. And the bones and muscles are being wasted to produce blood, because it's not being produced in the primary sites, which is the crypts of the small intestine. So the reason we're talking about this is because when it comes back to your diet, you have to look at or consider the fact that everything you eat is either going to make a deposit of health to your body, or it's going to make a withdrawal. Just if you're looking at like your bank account. And so I created a list, and I'm going to send that list to you if you don't have it, of foods you can eat freely and food that are making electron donors that can help build blood, and those foods which actually make withdrawals that are proton donors or hydrogen donors, and will actually cause, you know, an acidic condition in the most important fluids of the body. So foods that heal and foods that kill, foods that provide life force energy and foods that steal life force energy.
You
know, so yeah, these are things that, so, you know, I don't know if you're taking the L-arginine max, but the L-arginine max.
I'm taking that. I'm taking the 4 sauce, and I'm taking the green powder. And that was one of my questions, is you have several green powders on there. Which one do you think's the most, has the most efficacy in terms, or which one would you recommend, I guess?
Well, my preference is the Interlight Super Greens.
Yeah, I saw that. I don't have that one. I'm gonna get that next.
Yeah, my second choice is probably Doc Brock. But if you like if you don't like that minty taste, you know, the peppermint, which actually helps your stomach acidity, I would suggest the.
Hold on 1 second. I'll show you which one it is. It's just organic greens. Can you see that?
Yeah, that's the pH Miracle Greens.
Okay.
That is a very good product, and people like that because it's a lot milder. The Interlight Greens is a little stronger taste.
That's okay.
I like the taste. Is it better?
So how often should one take that? I saw you on one of your podcasts, and I saw you drinking something was very dark, and I figured it was that green stuff that just came out like that. Is that what it was?
Well, that's a combination of 3 scoops of Super Greens, 10 drops of Prime pH, 10 drops of Purify.
That was my next question. So that's another thing. I don't have that product.
Yeah, 10 drops with each liter.
But
3 scoops of Interlight Greens,
okay.
10 drops of Prime pH, 10 drops of Purify, with 1 micro scoop, which is approximately 250 to 300 milligrams of pure mulberry leaf chlorophyll.
That was the one. I don't see that. Is that on your site? I couldn't see that.
It's on the site phmiracleproducts.com.
Okay.
Okay. So bottom line is that bottom line is that when you're drinking greens, you're clean, you're serene, and you're never mean. It has a calming effect on your body, when you're drinking this stuff. But it also is foundational in building embryonic cells for building blood, which takes place in the crypts of the small intestine. So that fulfills one of the cornerstones of your house of health, excuse me, which is chlorophyll. So foods that are high in chlorophyll are very important because that chlorophyll is what equates out to increased amounts of hemoglobin. And we see that in the quality of the blood in combination with oil and oxygen. The oil is super polyunsaturated oils from either black seed oil or hemp seed oil, or even fish oils from good sources,
And my wife and I don't take anything that's related to an animal. So fish is out completely.
So there you have the omega-3, 6, and 9s, which is borate seed oil, flaxseed oil, and hemp seed oil.
Okay.
And you should take, you can take 2 or 3 tablespoons of that, but at least 1 a day. And then for the oxygen part, to increase atomic or nascent oxygen, which is O1, not O2, that's where the pH drops and the Purify comes in. And this supports your secondary immune system, not the primary. Primary is the stomach, which produces sodium bicarbonate for maintaining the integrity of the cells and, of course, the fluids of the body. The white cells, particularly the neutrophils, which make up 2/3 of the white count, you're supporting them by protecting the environment, but you're also protecting the lymphocytes, which their purpose is to emit oxygen species such as SO- and OH- or hydroxyl ions. So the Purify contains potassium hydroxide as well as potassium bicarbonate to provide these elements and supporting the stomach to maintain the integrity of the fluids, thus maintaining the integrity of the cell membrane and the genetic material within that cell. So when you're making your green drink, you're putting 3 scoops of the greens, 10 drops of the Prime pH, 10 drops of the Purify, 1 small scoop of the chlorophyll. And as you do that, if you take a baseline, if you go to your medical doctor and have him do a blood test, you get a baseline on your chemistry, which will list, a lot of different elements within the blood, the vascular fluids, such as sodium, potassium, magnesium, calcium, certain waste products or enzymes from the liver, certain enzymes or waste products from the kidney. And you'll get a reading on that, and you'll see alterations in that as you do this, improvements significantly, which will amaze your doctor going, what are you doing? But don't tell me, because I don't want to know. Because if I do know, then
I'll have to shoot myself.
No, you don't have to shoot yourself. That I may have to think now, why did I go to school for 8 years? Okay, so the bottom line is that they do a lot of good. But they.
And how much water is that?
The water is based upon 1 liter per 30 pounds of weight. If you're in a cleanse on maintenance, it's 1 liter per 50 pounds of weight. So you should be hydrating properly. People don't realize they lose 3 to 4 liters of fluids through the orifices of their bodies, through sweat, through urination, through defecation, through respiration. You have to replace those fluids or you become dehydrated. And we test for that. We see the dehydration, even though people are saying, well, I'm drinking water. Yeah, right. Okay, your cells are dehydrated. But it's not just drinking water, it's drinking the right kind of water. And I call it functionally structured water. And functionally structured water is ionized, alkalized, purified, functionally structured, breaking it down to less than 5 molecule clusters. So you're looking at like monomolecular, if possible, but 3 to 5 molecules rather than the typical tap water or bottled water, which is anywhere from 20 to 40 molecule clusters. You could be drinking alkaline water, but the water's doing you very little good because it can't permeate the cell membrane. Right. So it's really important to get your own ionizer, your own alkalizer, your own purifier to purify the water that you're going to drink or that you're going to bathe in or you're going to cook with. That was a mouthful.
All right, so having said that, you have a product. I got it. That's one of my next questions. You have a product, and I haven't bought it yet, but money is kind of an issue for us. But I think it's a watermark, and it takes out.
Well, the watermark is works on the principles of hydrostatic pressure. It pushes molecularly structured water and forces it through a tiny little hole, which bursts the clustering apart, which creates more surface area, thus more surface charge. But when you're pressing on something, just like when Hoover Dam is pushing water through a generator to produce electricity, you produce electricity from stress through pressure. And so you're ionizing that water, thus increasing the electrical potential of that water, at the same time creating a functionally structured water without using electricity or titanium platinum plates, which are very, very expensive. Some of these machines can be as much as $5,000 or $6,000. Right. And they don't last forever. They only last for a few years.
So if I was to purchase that particular model, is there anything else I need to do to the water to?
Well, it depends on whether your water's coming from the city or whether it's coming from the ground.
It comes from the city.
Well, they have the illusion that they're purifying the water. But the nice thing about the water market, it has a nanofiltration system that takes out impurities up to 99%, including fluoride. Right. But it'll take out chlorides and chlorine, chloramines, cesium, radioactive material, pharmaceuticals, what have you, that's in the water. There's quite a bit of stuff in that water, but it's not for drinking unless you're starving for water, because we all know that you can live for 40 days without food, but you can only live for 3 to 4 days without water, and you can only live for 30 to 40 seconds unless you're really practicing this without oxygen. But you can't live more than maybe 2 or 3 seconds if you lose your hope.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So hope is really important in any sort of protocol. It's responsible for 40% of the effects of some of the testing that goes on in blinded studies or double-blinded studies is the placebo effect. 40% are from the placebo effect. People believe, even though they're not taking anything other than the placebo, which doesn't contain the drug, 40% of those are having benefits, up to 40%, I
You
should
know,
say.
I have to say to you that one thing that resonates so well with me, you know, my wife and I have a meditation discipline that I've been practicing for 48 years, and you're the first doctor that has said your thoughts, your words, your deeds affect everything that you are. I mean, you know, you are what you think. And I don't hear anybody else saying that. And it's, you know, years ago I said, you know, your biochemistry will affect your thinking will affect your biochemistry, you know, not knowing, and it's accurate. And you struck such a nerve when you said that the other day. I forgot which podcast.
Well, the CIA, it knows this. The
Right.
FBI knows this. They know it's called mind control. This is going on right now. Inducing fear, which is false evidence appearing real, is exactly what's going on, and taking away your faith.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can worship in the privacy of your home. You can meditate and worship in the privacy of your home, but people are losing their faith, which is the first attribute in thinking healthy.
Yeah.
And every thought you have, I call it looping. But if you're taking a thought and you're thinking about that over and over again, it's called looping.
Yep.
That creates more acid than just going out and eating the worst kind of food you can think of.
I totally agree with that.
I call them 80%, but there was a study done. 80% of all heart attacks are thought attacks.
Yeah.
You know, the people that are thinking, and they've literally put themselves into this terrible situation, and they go to the emergency room and to resolve it. And here again, it's not a real heart attack; it's a thought attack. But our thoughts create acidic waste, if not properly eliminated, can kill you faster than a steak, you know, that can't come out of your body. I mean, it's just the bottom line here, no pun intended, is you know, thoughts are 20 times more powerful than any food you're going to eat.
That's a fact. That's a fact. By the way, here's one food that I wanted to catch. Is a couple of things. You know, I had such a misunderstanding about tofu, and I see, you know, they always said it causes too much estrogen and all that, and I have a swelling in my lymph in my right, you know, nipple. Let's say I've had it since I was 21, and I probably understand that's bad circulation, but I've never been able to get rid of it. And you find that tofu is an okay food?
Well, you know, they do add alkalizing components in order to curd the tofu, which raises the pH up over 8. Tofu in itself contains what are called isoflavones. Isoflavones, such as genistein or phytoestrogens, you know, this is called, you know, I'm not sure in the advertising world, but, you know, if tofu is overtaking something, you know, and someone's losing a market share, you know, let's say animal proteins, you know, people are eating more of tofu this, tofu that, you know, they're gonna write an ad or a negative campaign against tofu, saying it creates an estrogenic effect. In reality, it does just the opposite. It's actually anti-estrogenic.
Wow.
Yeah, those are phytoestrogens. 1 second here.
No worries.
I've got to run, you know, cut our meeting here short, but I want to pick it up. So
Okay.
I'm going to call you on the phone.
Okay.
And talk a little bit more. But I think you get the gist of what's going on here, hopefully.
I do. I want to get unconfused after having so much background in an arena that has been confusing, you know.
Yeah, well, look, you know, people talk on both sides of the issue, you know, and tofu is not acidic. It's actually alkalizing. Tofu runs out at a pH at about 8.2 to 8.4. You know, but I don't agree with the condiments that are put on tofu. I mean, that's where the problem is.
Right.
Okay, that has estrogenic effects.
Okay.
So fermented soy, yes. No fermented soy. Soy sprouts, yes. You know, and we market that, you know, as something that people should be ingesting. Any type of live sprout is very, very good. But Scott, I want to thank you for this opportunity to share with you. I'm going to send you something in writing to help you with a list of things that I think you ought to consider. These are recommendations. This is not medical advice.
I know
This is education, not medication.
that.
You know, I want to. It's nice to meet you, and I'll be back in touch very shortly. Okay.
I'm just happy you're doing what you're doing. I got to tell you the truth, man. It's I think when this, I'm not to puff you up, but I think when this is all said and done and we come around to understanding that there really is a new biology, there's a new chemistry understanding. I hope it starts with my grandkids' generation at least, so we can.
I hope so too. That's why I'm doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all the best to you, and God bless you.
God bless you the same. You're a brave man.
Take care. All the best. Bye bye.
Hey, bye now.